Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our fourth Facebook Live event. This event is themed around disruptions. We know that is something that everybody has been really keen to understand. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Superintendent Jo Hall, and I'm going to be your chair for this evening's event. I'm joined by a number of colleagues from different agencies, and I would like to introduce them to you before we go any further. So firstly, from the Cabinet Office, I would like to introduce Laura Perry and Joseph Potts. Thank you both. From Cornwall Council, Graham Jones. From Public Health Cornwall, Rachel Wigglesworth. And from Devon Cornwall Police, we have Jim Pearce and Dean O'Connor. Throughout the event, you'll see we're joined by Carleen, our BSL interpreter. And following the event, the recording of this will be on our websites with subtitles. So we're trying to reach as many people as we can. So that will be there to watch later. So this evening's event is where each agency will provide you an update with regards to how our planning is going for the G7 event. And following those short updates, we will then take questions from everybody and hopefully we'll answer as many as we can. So as the event is going on, if you do have a question, please can I ask you to type them in the comments box, start them with the word question, and if you can keep them relatively short so that we can identify them as a question and get them on the screen, that would be really helpful. We expect the event to take about 45 minutes this evening. We will try and answer as many questions as we can, but where we can't, we will make sure we go away, get an answer for you, and then update that onto our websites. So let's move on to agency updates for you. The first update I'd like to welcome this evening is the Cabinet Office. So if I could welcome back Laura Perry and Joseph Potts, please.
Thank you, Jo, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for dialing in this evening. My name is Laura.
My name is Joseph.
And we work in the central government team in the Cabinet Office who are responsible for organising the summit. And we've been COVID tested to be here in the office to join you today. So yesterday marked 1 month until the summit in June, which is very exciting. And momentum towards the event is definitely picking up in the central team. Just to set the scene a little bit for what leaders are going to be talking about in June. This week, 2 of our engagement groups, which is how we involve civil society in the policy discussions, the Business 7 and the Youth 7 will be holding summits during the course of the week. And finance ministers from G7 countries have also announced that they're going to be meeting in London at the beginning of June. So we look forward to those discussions, again, setting the scene for what leaders will talk about in June. Last week, foreign ministers gathered in London. They had very long and detailed discussions, issued a lengthy joint statement, which you can read on our website. But there were some major announcements in there around vaccine distribution around the world and investing in girls' education. They agreed a new target to get 40 million girls around the world into education over the next 5 years.
This week we also made some exciting announcements on local businesses around Cornwall that we will be contracting to help in contributing to the summit. And you can see more details of those on our website as well at g7uk.org. And also the Prime Minister announced that the G7 summit will be carbon neutral as part of our ecological pledge around ensuring that this is a green summit that also helps deliver major policy announcements around combating climate change. But we all appreciate that the information from our colleagues this evening on traffic disruption is probably what many of you are dialing in to hear about. So without any further ado, we'll hand back to Jo and her team. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, I'd like to welcome Cornwall Council's representative, Graham Jones. Next, please.
Thanks, Jo. Good evening. I'm Graham Jones. I'm acting as the Chief of Staff to Cornwall Council for the G7 Summit. We are continuing to work shoulder to shoulder with Devon and Cornwall Police and with Cabinet Office colleagues as we roll out the planning for the event. And we're here tonight very much to keep residents up to date on that planning and making sure that we as a council play our part in delivering a successful summit. Hosting an event of this sort is obviously very complex and a lot of security attached to it. But we do want to share tonight some of the measures on the local road network and hopefully start to get residents and businesses who may be directly affected close to the venues to understand the need to plan ahead, to try and reduce deliveries if at all possible, and their travel if at all possible, so that we help ourselves and try and relieve as much of the traffic congestion as possible. It is going to be disruptive close to the event throughout the 4 days, and people who rely on Cornwall Council services may be concerned about continuity of services. We will do our absolute utmost to ensure that services continue, and we'll continue to communicate plans over the coming weeks as we run up to the event itself. What I would say is that whilst there will be disruption, and this session is around that side of things, there are significant benefits and investments being made in Cornwall as a result. There's investments and funding at the airport, for instance, and for Cornwall's inclusion in the project Gigabit high-speed internet rollout. And we're also got a strong youth programme to try and make sure that the next generation get opportunity from this event and be at the heart of world politics in the future. So we hope to answer all of your questions tonight wherever possible, and those we can't, we will take offline. And I'll pass back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Okay, next I would like to welcome our public health representative, Rachel Wigglesworth, please.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Director of Public Health for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, so good to be here and to answer any of your questions. We are rising to the challenge of hosting G7 in Cornwall during a global COVID pandemic. So we do understand people might have concerns, but we're really happy to address them here. Our key priority is and always will be protecting the health and safety of our residents here in Cornwall, and that has been in the forefront of our planning in the build-up to the event, as it has been through the pandemic. I'm glad to say that currently we in Cornwall have one of the lowest rates of COVID infection in the country. And as we lead into the next stage of the roadmap with reopening from the 17th of May, we're in a good position, and we also have good uptake of the COVID vaccination locally. So this is a good position for us, but we will be monitoring very carefully what happens in the next weeks. So we made good progress to identify the potential risks to health and how we mitigate them, but this event will not be risk-free. But we know we have the support of all of the agencies around the table that you see today and beyond. And we're also thinking about not just the delegates to G7, but also about the media, its officers, and any extra measures we need to keep the community safe. So I'm happy to answer any of your questions here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I'd like to move to the police updates now. First, if I can welcome Jim Pearce, please.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm the policing commander for Cornwall. And as has been mentioned, tonight's session is around sharing information about how the police and our partners are seeking to manage the impact of this event on our communities, but particularly around the road network. So when I've been on this forum before, I've explained that a key part of the policing role is how we will deliver a safe and secure summit. We need to ensure that the heads of state and their staff can be moved across the county when needed, and of course be kept secure in the venues when in residence. However, I do accept there must be a balance. Residents, visitors and workers will also want to move around and conduct their business without impedance or too much delay. I totally understand that. And this balance shouldn't be so heavily weighted that no one can move or undergo their business. Equally, it does need to be secure and safe enough so that the summit can occur without hazard. So at one of these events a month ago or so, I said that on behalf of our partners, we would be able to provide the detail of the traffic management plan and impact by the second week of May. So I'm delighted that today we are able to do that. And in a second, I'll be introducing you to our policing route commander, Dean O'Connor, who will share that detail with you. I'm certain that some of this information we'll share today will likely cause further questions, possibly concerns, but it will be backed up by a campaign over the next few weeks with social media, leafleting, and our websites, both the council and the police. But please, if it doesn't help you, if you've still got questions, then use the email addresses that are being shared this evening to contact us. We have a very busy road network in Devon and Cornwall, especially during the summer months. Our normal business would see us deploying our roads policing teams ready to respond to the issues that affect all roads, but with a particular focus on the strategic road network. During the summer, we will be enhancing this service, especially in Mid and West Cornwall, so that if any incidents occur, the appropriate resource is going to be sent as quickly as possible. And that will happen 24/7. We aim to keep the road free flowing as much as possible for all road users. On top of responding to calls for service, though, we will also seek to maintain a high visible presence to educate and, of course, if need be, to enforce roads traffic offences. However, collisions do occur, and sadly some are very serious, and it's our duty to investigate these fully and thoroughly. So it may well be that a delay or a road closure during this time is to actually enable the investigations for one of those road collisions to occur within a safe environment. We would of course ask that for this type of issue, patience and understanding is given, but it is our policing commitment to you that we will not keep the roads closed for any longer than is absolutely necessary. So I'll hand back to Joe with a view to sharing with you the detail, and Dean O'Connor will do that, as I say, as our route commander. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so because this evening's event is around disruptions, and we do understand that is a concern to many of the community, and that will probably be the majority of the questions that you want to ask this evening, we thought it would be helpful to bring our routes commander along to give an update and show a map to explain those disruptions to you. So if I could welcome Dean O'Connor to give us a final update, and then we can move to questions.
Thank you. So my role tonight is to give you that reassurance that the roads will be busy, and the phrase around strategic network, as Mr. Pearce has already alluded to, that will be one of our focuses for that wider disruption. So there's no road closures, it's just about being able to respond really effectively and quickly to try and deal with those challenges that Cornwall roads normally experience in the summer. But our additional resources should ensure that keeps free flowing. I know everybody were really interested in the impact of what's called road closures in and around Carbis Bay. And I'm going to put a map up now which will help you explain how we've tried to focus our operation around the balance between providing safe and secure summit event whilst minimising the impact on the community. So for me, as the person responsible for safety and security of all the road users, and particularly our world leaders and delegates, the focus in my planning is about how I can move those people safely, but with the least impact on the community. And that's been our challenge, to ensure that we can deliver a safe and secure summit. But my aim has always been to be able for everybody to be able to drive to and from their home address. But to achieve that, there needs to be diversions, and there potentially will be some extended journeys by our residents. So the plan that we've developed jointly with the Cornwall Council and the Falmouth Commonwealth Office is really focused on how we can minimise that impact and get all of those essential services into Carbis Bay and people to their home addresses. But the first bit, I'd like to reassure you that if you're on foot, pedestrian access is mostly unrestricted. The only people impacted on there will be the residents who are in the immediate vicinity of any of those venues. And as you can imagine, what we're trying to do there is just restrict that to the residents in that immediate proximity. So St Ives Road, which you can see on the map, is red with the black lines. That is the road closure. Now, at times that road will be closed for long periods of time. And therefore, to ensure that everybody can access St Ives Town, you will see the green line that runs around the left-hand side of the map, takes you up through what's locally known as the Coach Road, and will take you around into St Ives. So the town of St Ives, where all the access is unrestricted. The challenge for us was always around how we get people to their home addresses. So the residential route is slightly different. You can see there's a number of checkpoints highlighted in blue, and that is where our residents will be able to access their home addresses. Now, this is going to take some time. This is going to require some validation. And what we mean by validation is ensuring that you're the person that needs to return to that address with the right identification. So we'll be asking for 2 forms of identification for people to get into those areas highlighted on the map in the pink corally colour. I think you can probably see with E numbers against them. So those residents will have to take an extended journey. In most cases, that should be quite straightforward. For any residents that are very close to that those key venues, then there will be some additional checks. We have plenty of resources there to work with you to make sure that we have opportunity to get you to back to your home address as quickly as possible, recognising when there's movements of convoys and people, we may be delaying you somewhat. So I'd ask you, if you need to leave your address, please allow some extra time. We will get you out as soon as we can. And when you're returning, much the same. There's going to be some delays. But our absolute focus is to get you home. I'm sure there's going to be questions around, can I get my Amazon delivery? Can my friends come to see me? Absolutely. They would take that same route. But what I'd ask you for is to help us with that information to get you the right level of validation back in. So please ask them to have some ID. Please make sure they know the address they're going to. And then the phone number. We might be giving you a call to check you're having visitors, you check you're having deliveries. I would recognise the impact, especially if you have to have carers or vulnerable people in this area. So one of the things we work really hard on is to make sure that we can get that care in central services with our colleagues from social care. So we're identifying addresses that would require carers to come through during that period. And again, we will facilitate that, even if we have to escort you down to the address. So the focus of all this plan is that, yes, there will be some disruption, but the plan has been developed with the aim to minimise that as much as possible. But we recognise there will be some extended journeys. So if you can think about minimising your travel during that time, following the planned diversions, carrying your 2 forms of identification, and if you've got any deliveries, we're also engaging with businesses around making sure they have a delivery note or some statement of the purpose to be in that area. We'll get you through as soon as you can. The maps will be coming out in more detail to those residents that are impacted closer to, and also our engagement teams are on the ground. So if you have a question, please say hello to them, ask, and they'll direct you in the right area. So hopefully I've given that reassurance that throughout the event, there will be times where we're going to delay you. There will be times when you'll have some disruption, but we'll always work hard to get you back to that home address or get you away from your home address. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, and just to clarify, it has gone across the bottom bar there, but if you didn't see it, the map will be uploaded onto our website. So appreciate for this evening, it might look a bit small on some of your screens, but it will be on our website. So feel free to have a look at that, and that should give you a bit more detail to see if your address is impacted or how that practically is going to impact on you. So thank you for the updates from all of our agencies. I think it would be helpful now if we go to questions and see if we can give some answers. Okay, just waiting to see if we've got any questions. All right, Joe White is asking, most utility bills are online now. Will printouts be acceptable? Dean, can I bring you back? It's in relation to the accreditation process.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, absolutely. Both forms will be accepted. So if you've got a smart device or a printout with the address in the last 3 months, then they will be acceptable.
Thank you, Dean. So Rebecca Holland is asking, how do tourists get in and out of the town, as many have holiday lets in St Ives? How will this work if they have to provide 2 forms of ID when they don't live here? How do you plan on this, and will you compensate the loss of earnings? And Dean, we thought it was going to be a busy night for you tonight, so if I can call you back in again, please.
Yeah, thank you. In relation to that, what we're trying to do is we're engaging with a lot of the holiday let businesses, but also I would ask for people to have some form of booking form, anything that demonstrates where they're staying. Again, that could be online, that could also be printed. And if we really can't bottom that out for you and you live in one of those areas or you need that extra validation, then we'll escort you down to the area. So yes, we might be adding some time to your journey, but absolutely, as I've said, the focus is let's get people back to where they need to be. And in the case of holiday makers, then it might take a little bit longer, but those booking forms or anything that demonstrates your link to that address will really speed the process up. With regards to compensation of earnings, I think that'd be a question for someone else to pick up, Chair.
Lovely, thank you, Dean. So with regards to the compensation, perhaps I could call the Cabinet Office in here.
Hi there. Just to clarify, I think the specific question asked about St Ives businesses, and St Ives is very much going to be open for business during the summit. So it's just those areas that were in the pink section on the map where holiday lets will be affected, and as has just been described, we'll be working with the providers. In terms of the bigger question of compensation, again, St Ives and businesses in St Ives shouldn't be affected. There are a small number of businesses that are going to be impacted in a couple of the summit areas, and we're in touch with them directly about what it means for them and whether they're eligible for any compensation. But that is a very small number, and you will hear from us if that includes you. But again, St Ives is very much open for business.
Thank you both, that's really helpful. And the small number that you're referring to, that's on the map that you'll be able to see in far more detail on the website. Okay, Danny is asking, will bus services still be running from Carbis Bay to St Ives during the road closures? Dean, can I come back to you, please?
Yeah, we've been working with the council and the bus providers throughout this. Again, the journeys will be slightly diverted, but there is a service. Perhaps Graham for the council will clarify the detail, but the bus services have been worked with us throughout this to develop the plan to ensure that access to public transport has minimised the impact to it.
Thank you, Dean. Graham, is there anything that you'd like to add to that in relation to the bus service aspect?
Thanks. Yeah, so as Dean has said, the bus service won't be able to run through Carbis Bay along that section of road that's shown in red and yellow and black, but there will be a route around the coach road, and there will be replacement bus for the rail link as well around the coach road. So yes, there will be, for the 4 days of the event, limited services in Carbis Bay.
Thank you, Graham. Okay, so Wendy's asking, what documents do I need as I stay with my parents every weekend? I travel from Penryn and would go the back road via Lelant Downs, but my driving licence shows Penryn. Dean, I'll call you in again, please. This is the Dean show tonight, isn't it?
Thank you. So again, we'd ask you to go to that residence checkpoint, maybe have some link to that premises. So if it's your parents' address, we can phone through. It's only really that really close immediate vicinity of those venues where we need to do those extra checks. So you will be getting through to the land, but you have to take that longer route. So, but please have your ID, where you're going, and say like the phone number, we can confirm and make sure we're expected, and hopefully we're just going to add a little bit of time to your journey.
Dean, if I can just hold you here for a minute while we're talking about the accreditation type processes and we're referring to road closures, it might be helpful to just refer to what dates we're talking about. Do you have those dates to hand to share?
Absolutely. So there'll be a stage process. So for those residents that will start some disruption when the security build starts, really from around the weekend before, so the 4th, 5th, 6th, you'll start to see some more traffic, but none of those roads are closed. So think about roadworks, an accident, they'll just be short-term, temporary things which will impact on the day. So in relation to the more detailed closures, they will commence on Thursday, the 10th of June at 9 o'clock. And that will be gradual throughout the day, and they will remain in place until approximately midnight on the 13th. And then after the 13th, we'll see the same in reverse as we start to remove those security measures over the next couple of days. So there'll be some short-term disruption at the beginning of the week, commencing the 7th, but from the Thursday onwards, that road will be, the majority of the time, will be closed to provide that secure event.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question then, please. So Steve Hines is asking, will refuse collection still happen? And I'd like to call Graham in here, please.
Thanks. So clearly there will be some changes potentially around those properties very closely affected and directly within the secure perimeter for the event. But we're working with our suppliers and we'll be working through a plan on that and communicating with residents if their collection is affected.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Michelle Walton is asking, how will you be making contact with affected businesses if affected? Can I call in the Cabinet Office here, please? Because this is in relation to whether or not businesses are going to be affected. You did touch on that earlier.
We did indeed, you're right, yes. So we're getting in touch with the businesses impacted directly. So when I say directly, that means we'll either be giving you a phone call or coming around in person as part of our sort of reviews of the sites. But yes, you will hear from us directly. I'm not just saying pinging you a letter. There will be direct, face-to-face or on the phone contact with us. So yes, you can expect that. As I say, if you're not contacted by us, then the assumption should be that you're not a business that is being impacted by the summit significantly.
Lovely, thank you, Joseph. And we'll move on to the next question then. So Zoe Louise Crow, do pedestrians in the closure zone need to carry 2 forms of ID or just vehicles? Welcome back, Dean. Can you help us with this question, please?
Yeah, thank you. So as I mentioned, pedestrian access is mostly unrestricted. So those road closures offer vehicular traffic. There's some additional pedestrian traffic closures in the immediate vicinity of our venues. And those you will need ID, and they will be for residents only. So the roads that lead down towards the Carbis Bay Hotel, for example, are part of that secure area. The beach is closed, so it would be normal to expect there would only be residents that require access on foot. But the rest of St Ives, main Carbis Bay, the access is pretty much unrestricted, and therefore you won't need to carry those IDs if you're walking on foot.
So thank you, Dean. But just to clarify on our map there, where you're in those areas, it is clear on the key where you'll need that ID. So if people look online, is that going to be clear for them?
Absolutely. And we'll also be doing some additional leaflet drops and engagement with those really impacted premises, so they know 100% which one they go to, how they get through that. And this is just the start of that engagement process. We've got 4 weeks now to really engage the community to make sure they understand how they get back to their home addresses.
Lovely, thank you. And those leaflets that you're referring to, I believe they're started next week as well. So people will start seeing that if they are directly affected.
And I see the question on there. Shall I take that one as well?
It's all for you tonight, Dean. So the question is, will there be recovery or swift action to deal with poor parking or broken down vehicles in any of the one-way systems for residents?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to what we would normally have in our roads policing, there is dedicated tow away and recovery to all of those routes. So that comes back to our commitment to keep not only the strategic road network flowing, but those areas within Carbis Bay that may be impacted for those one-way systems. So there you will see recovery trucks probably parked up pretty close so that we can have a really effective response through to there. So hopefully, again, really reassuring, we'll be able to deal with that very quickly for you.
Thank you, Dee. Okay, what have we got next? Louis Whitman, will there be a marine cordon in place and what distance will that be? So I think I'll call in Jim Pearce here to see if he can help with marine cordons.
Yes, thank you, Joe. So there have been some, if you remember, I think it was about 2 Facebook sessions ago, we spoke about the harbour restrictions orders, which are in the public domain and can be got hold of in terms of on our website, or actually more locally to the harbour restrictions. In very, very simple terms, you will be able to use the harbour, you'll be able to go out to open sea, there will be limited restrictions to either businesses or pleasure boats. Of course, the only thing that you will not be able to do is to effectively come out and go directly towards Carbis Bay. So that's where the restrictions will be, again, in simple terms. On the other side of the coast in Falmouth, there are no significant restrictions in place at this moment in time.
Thank you. So helpful to understand then that there will still be access to the sea and the ocean through the harbour. Thank you. So Paul Knappman is asking, if you're a tradesperson such as a self-employed gardener or cleaner, how will you access customer premises via the closed road? Dean, this is part of your process, if you could help us with that one.
Yeah, so firstly, we'd ask to try and make those appointments before or after the summit, just so that you can continue to give that good service and people expect you to be there, because you might get caught in that residence checkpoint, which may delay. But again, we'd ask you for 2 forms of ID and where you're going, why you're going there. So have you got an order? Have you got an email from that address asking for your services? An invoice maybe drawn up. And again, come back to, if we can't bottom that out, we will do our best to facilitate you through to that area. So it's going to be challenging. Some of your commitments will take a lot longer because you'll be caught in that residence bit of disruption. So I'd ask you perhaps to do your work on the Wednesday or delay it to the following week. But if you absolutely can, make sure you've got that validation ID with you and some statement of purpose, some sort of proof where you're going to do your business for the day.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, let's have a look at our next question then, and that's from Zoe Young. When will we have updates about Falmouth 2, please? Mr. Pearce, if I can draw you in here, I'm not sure which updates in particular are being sought, but is there anything you can help with us around Falmouth, please?
Yeah, we can talk about Falmouth. So the impact on Falmouth in terms of road closures is not the same. Whilst there is the media centre there, and that's very much where the disruption will be around the 2 car parks that are very close to that, and those car parks are shutting slightly earlier than the dates within Carbis Bay, and somebody will remind me in a minute when those dates are. I think it's around the 27th of May or similar. But in terms of road closures, that is unlikely to happen. We'll be looking to, and Dean will sort of talk about how he'll want to, on occasions, keep the roads flowing, actually, so that the movement of the media from one side of the county to the other side of the county can occur. And outside of that, we're really hopeful that actually the impact, other than that very, very tight area around that part of the town, the impact should be considerably less than other parts, obviously the Carbis Bay area, Jack.
Thank you. So let's bring in Dean to see if he can add anything to that then. Dean, in relation to Falmouth, any disruptions there that we can cover off, please?
Yeah, there'll be some parking restrictions close to the Maritime Museum, and that's to allow all of that traffic to flow much freer. So it prevents any vehicles parking illegally and reduces all of the traffic on the road. The main reason for that is we'll have lots of press moving in and around, and we want to make sure those roads are flowing. But there will be minimal disruption there. There's not the same level of road closures. It would just be a small amount of disruption, and everyone should be able to get to the home address quite easily in Falmouth. And whilst we're there, should we talk briefly about Newquay? Because there's some similar impacts in and around Newquay at certain times, if that would help.
Yes, please, Dean.
So Newquay has got a small number of diversions, which will enable everyone to get back to their home address or to their residence or their business. But again, that might be by diversion. There is a small number of residential premises and business premises that will be within that similar immediate vicinity of the security element at Newquay Airport and RAF St Morgan. So again, if that's somewhere that you would normally move around up there and you require that access to business, you will require those same 2 forms of ID, or if you're a business, also that statement of purpose. The work is also going on with our up there to make sure that we engage those businesses, prepare them for that, and making sure that we get you through into the secure areas as soon as possible, and those businesses will be spoken to individually.
Thank you, Dean. And then while we're on the other areas, then if I could bring in Graham from the council, just to see if there's anything you can add to that, Graham, please.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Just to add to it, so whilst we've got the International Media Centre in Falmouth, we're also staging what we're calling Cornwall House at the Wood Lane campus of Falmouth University, and we're hoping to attract the world's media to that venue to show off the best of Cornwall in terms of its business, its youth and its youth programme, as we've talked about. And we've got various speakers there, including international marine conservationists, to talk to the media and to talk to people and to promote Cornwall. So perhaps a little bit more positive note than the disruption that we've been talking about. So that I think is a positive for Falmouth and for Cornwall.
Thank you, Graham. Yes, great news there. Okay, so Angela Raven is asking, will the branch line be closed from St Erth, as a lot of people rely on this to get into St Ives? Graham, can I bring you back in on this one, the branch line closures?
Yes, certainly. So yes, there will be a closure of the branch line, and there will be rail replacement buses, which will take people via the coach road around to St Ives. It's unfortunate, but with the rail line running so close to the venue, that's an inevitable consequence, unfortunately.
Thank you, Graham. Mel Potter is asking, does everyone in a vehicle have to have ID or just the driver? A good question, Mel. Dean, can you help us with that one, please?
Yes, of course. Again, we would suggest everybody has that ID just to be sure, but we're looking really for proof and link to that address. As long as the driver has got the proof of residency, and that would be absolutely fine.
Thank you, Dean. Hope that helped, Mel. Lisa Rowe, the back road into St Ives is very narrow. How will the buses and service vehicles cope, as I'm sure there will be blockages on the road? Graham, is that something we can bring you back in for in relation to the buses?
Yes, I mean, it's a general issue around congestion on the roads, I think, as well. The traffic plan has been designed to ensure that buses and service vehicles and large vehicles can still access. But there is, of course, as we've talked about all the way through, a general issue about keeping traffic flowing and keeping congestion to a minimum. So I go back really to the message around minimising travel wherever possible from residents and businesses. I know that's not always easy, but if we can reduce journeys, deliveries, etc., that will help enormously.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so we've probably got about 10 minutes or so left, so we'll take a few more questions. And Zoe Young is asking, what plans for policing of protests in Falmouth, please? As protesters plan to boycott Church Street car park and other sites proposed by the police. So I wonder if Jim Pearce can help us with this one, please.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So, as was mentioned at the last Facebook event, the protest sites have been shared there, and we have been listening to the community feedback actually from particularly from partners and so forth around Truro and the Lemon Quay. Now, with Falmouth, the Church Street car park is going to continue to be used. There is also discussions about whether we've got opportunities to work with other locations, and we hope to have some news on that within the week or so. So we do accept that some protesters may decide to use and some may not, but the option is there. The fact is that many of our towns and spaces are small. We know that, but if there is a safe areas for those that want to voice their thoughts and to demonstrate their freedom of speech, then that opportunity is there for them. So at this moment in time, the Church Street car park again is, I'll reiterate that is going to be used.
Thank you. Okay, so what have we got coming up next? Sharon Kilty, how is the G Summit going to be carbon neutral? Can I welcome back our Cabinet Office colleagues to help with this one, please?
Certainly, yeah. We'll be announcing a bit more about this in due course, but there are essentially international standards that events like this have to meet in order to be registered as carbon neutral. So we're not marking our own homework here. Basically, we'll be commissioning an external organisation to assess all of the different plans for the summit So everything from transport to the different suppliers that we're using, food and drink as well that we're bringing in. Obviously, we have a commitment to be using locally sourced food and drink as much as possible for the summit to reduce carbon mileage and also to showcase the best of Cornish hospitality. So that will all be assessed independently, and obviously where there is inevitable carbon output, we will then invest in internationally accredited and registered offsetting schemes, both in developing countries, but also investing in ecological and environmental projects in Cornwall itself. So we look forward to announcing a bit more on that later on this month.
Thank you both. Okay, so Karen Ann, I work for the local doctor's surgery. Please can you advise me if patients will be able to access their routine appointments, or should we be cancelling them on these days? So I'm not sure who this might sit best with. If I come to Graham first, because it's around doctors, and then if we need to bring Dean in, we can.
Thanks, Joe. I mean, clearly people need to continue with their healthcare and their appointments. But if people can plan ahead and adjust their appointments to avoid these peak periods and the road closure period, that would be extremely helpful. So people travelling in from a distance, perhaps to doctor's surgeries who would use the car, if that could be rearranged, that would be helpful. But clearly, people need to continue with their healthcare, and certainly for anything other than routine, they need to continue.
Okay,
that helps.
Thank you, Graham. And I'll just go to Dean to see if there's anything that he can add in relation to that and access to doctors' surgeries, probably for the road side of it then, Dean.
Yeah, so I echo Graham's point around trying to minimise that travel. And in addition to that, obviously they'll be able to park and walk down to the doctor if that's appropriate for them from their mobility perspective. But again, just reiterate, you'd need to give us plenty of time and warning to get to your appointment. You'll be expected to go through that same process and maybe confirmation as an email or appointment from a doctor. And then again, we would make sure that you are facilitated to get down that road as soon as we can, but it might add some time to your journey.
Thank you, Dean. Jenna Lane, I will be sailing in Falmouth at the regatta. Can I drive and park at Pendennis Marina? Back to you then, Dean, please.
I'm not sure which car park, I haven't heard of the Pendennis Marina car park being impacted. That's certainly not within my routes area. Would Mr. Pearce be able to just clarify if that car park's impacted, please, for Graham?
I don't think it's within the restricted area, but we may have to just double check that so we're not giving out inappropriate information there, Joe.
Okay, so if we take that one away then, the name of that car park, what we will do is we will upload that into our FAQs of our website. So if you have keep a look on that, and then we'll make sure we get you a specific answer for that one that we're not quite able to confirm this evening. Okay, we've got a couple more questions we can take. We've got about 5 more minutes. Melanie Rawlings, during the closure of the main road into St Ives, what provision is made for emergency vehicles, paramedics, out-of-hours doctors who need to visit elderly residents in a care home in Headlands Road, Carbis Bay? I know this has been subject to Dean's plan, so if I could bring Dean back in, please.
Yeah, thank you. And that's been one of our first challenges, to make sure that with all that disruption, all that extra traffic, emergency services, social care can get access. So all of those agencies have been working with us, and we've got dedicated routes that are away from the residential traffic, business traffic, which is why which actually impacts slightly on our community in the land. So that's the road that we're using to be able to get that access for everybody nice and quickly. But it means our land residents have to take a slightly longer journey. But all of those partners have all been involved in this planning process, and they're happy how we get them in as close as possible and as quickly as possible to be able to deliver those essential services.
Thank you, Dean. Louise Lawrence, health and care services across Cornwall are on Opal 4 at the moment, with ambulances backed up outside. With 210,000 daily visitor coming into Cornwall throughout the summer, and G7 with protesters, etc. on top of this, what arrangements have been made for the additional healthcare which is going to be needed? We have only one main hospital and it is already overstretched. So could I bring in our public health representative, Rachel Wigglesworth here, please?
Hi there. So clearly there's been a lot of planning going on in terms of making sure that capacity is available for any incidents during the G7 period. But clearly, the way in which our health services is struggling to cope at the moment is a result of, some of the social distancing that are required to be in place and delivery of services. So it is a challenge for our NHS. And I think probably as, if you're a resident of Cornwall, you need to think about how we use our services and make sure we go to the appropriate ones as we need to, and use 111, as opposed to using our emergency unless otherwise needed. But this is subject to support from all agencies to support the NHS when they do have these difficult times, and we hope that we come through them. But it's both the responsibility of NHS and our way in which we use those services, as I say. It's another question as well, I think, for NHS to perhaps respond to outside of this briefing, rather than me respond on their behalf as well.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel. So if we can take 2 more questions, because we've done our time, but let's do 2 more. Greg Thomas, what are the plans to avoid the Hayle bypass from grinding to a halt? Dean, have you thought about that in your planning?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been recognised as a real pinch point across the traffic, but we've got to accept that traffic's busy there normally. So what we've done, we've got additional roads policing units who have a really highly visible presence, particularly on that part of the road network. And as you mentioned earlier, that recovery element around tearaway trucks, anything that happens, we'll really respond much more effectively than we would do normally. So we've really upped the level of resourcing. Now we cannot guarantee there won't be any traffic issues, any collisions, but what we can say is the reassurance that we've enhanced that ability to respond, enhanced our capability to have the right pieces of equipment on site really quickly so we can keep the roads flowing. So all of that disruption really concentrates on that St Ives road. The road closures across the rest of West Cornwall are non-existent. So it'd be daily traffic, but with enhanced patrols, enhanced response to keep those roads flowing as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Dean. That's helpful. And if we can take one final question. Jill Scott Anderson, St Ives School is very disrupted by the G7. What will the legacy be for the people of St Ives? Graham, can I bring you in to help with this one?
Certainly. As I mentioned earlier, there is a G7 youth programme, and we have a council lead on that and a website, which I'm not sure whether that's going along the bottom of the screen, but we can certainly provide that website. And the aim there is to make sure that there are opportunities, not just for St Ives school children, but school children and youth across Cornwall to be involved, to understand some of the issues that the G7 may be talking about, possibly after the event, to sit in the seats of the G7 leaders and have their own sort of mini summit of their own. So there is a detailed programme and a website around that, which I would refer people to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Graham. So that is the end of our questions so far. Hopefully we've answered as many as we can. There is one we're going to take away and upload onto our website. I'd like to thank all of our agencies that have worked with us today to deliver this event. So if I can just thank firstly the Cabinet Office, Laura Perry and Joseph Potts. Thank you. Cornwall Council's Graham Jones. Thank you, Graham.
Thanks, Joe.
Public Health Cornwall, Rachel Wigglesworth. Thank you. And our police representatives, Jim Pierce.
Thank you.
And then extra thanks to Dean O'Connor, who fielded most of the questions for us. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
And thank you to Carleen for interpreting for us this evening. Okay, so I hope that event has been helpful. A recording will be put on our website and it will have subtitles to reach even more people. Our websites are there to use. There is access details on them, so please, we would encourage you to have a look at those. And I would like to thank you for joining us this evening, and see you at the next event. Thank you.